Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Gelvin Valley, map for Farming Simulator 15, made by Wild Wild Wes. We've been in the process of replanting our fields, if you will, and I've been trying to figure out what to plant, and I've been learning some interesting things about the mechanics of this game. But first, before I do anything else, there's something I want to do. I'm sure people have noticed this before, and this is a feature of the game. You notice how we can't see those far mountains very well, and really in real life, there is mist or haze, if you will, that limits, even on a brilliant sunny day, that limits the ability of one to see things a lot of times in the far horizon. And a lot of times when the haze clears, we all notice a difference. It's like, wow, the mountains, appear just much closer. It's more vivid. You can see more details. And I know they've tried to mimic that in the game with something called distance fog or whatever. So it is a feature. Sometimes in the mornings there will be mist everywhere and it can be hard to see. But I gotta say, as a player, sometimes I just want to see the vibrancy of the colors and just to enjoy the game as is. Sometimes a person can have too much realism, and we just want to see the game. So looking at this angle here, let me hop out of the tractor. I put this in. I'm just going to go Control B. Let me hop back in. Notice how you can now, and I realize we're kind of at a dusk time of day. It's at 7:19 in the evening. But rather than just being a wall of brown, you now can see the color. And I think just with a little input binding that I put in there, it'll now just show color in the distance rather than a lot of the mist. So even though clear off over here, it still looks a little misty. I have a feeling that's just from the texture or whatever that you use kind of on this background. So I wanted to clear it up as much as I could. And so it'll be a little clearer during rains, but we can always toggle back if we want to have a little bit of fog. I made a mod for this kind of in Farm Sim 17. I called it Fog Gone. Just a short little Lua script to take care of it. And I just got tired of mist and what have you, so I thought, well, let's get rid of it. So it took surprisingly little work to bring it back from 17 to 15. And I know there was some other mods out there, where they removed haze, but I didn't quite like how some of them did it, and I wanted to try the version that I made, which totally eliminates whatever's in there. Before moving on, we do have these fields. We've planted 25. I'm up here on 22. We'll come down to 18 and kind of continue our circuit around. What do we plant? And maybe just to temporarily suspend the game, I wanted to come show this, which is a little crop calculator for Gelvin Valley. I didn't show it, but you could take the prices from the highest paying stations, if you will, for the various commodities as of right now. We could maybe do this a little differently, but I mean, this is pretty much what a real life farmer would have to go off of. What are today's prices? What is the history? We don't exactly have the history, but we know what it is today. And so I peeled out some items from the game tables, if you will, that showed how many liters per square meter of the seed cost is. And this is cost of input. This is output in liters per square meter, prices for that, and kind of a revenue, and then profit. Now, this isn't going to be true profit because I don't have all of the inputs in here. I don't have the cost of running the tractors. I don't have the cost of fertilizer. The reason I only put these in here is because I think these are the ones that make the key difference. In all of these, especially these up here, most of these you got to run a tractor at some point. You have to run a combine or other type of harvester at some point. So I think the cost of that comes out in the wash. The cost of putting fertilizer on it is going to be the same, whether it's wheat or, well, I guess you don't fertilize grass and dry grass. But that's kind of the point. I'm only putting in here the key differences, taking current prices and seeing, which one gives the best bang for the buck. And assuming we take the bales, the straw bales, if you will, that come off of wheat and barley and sell them, it's going to add to our revenue. Barley right now edges out wheat just a little bit, and you can just see it plainly kind of in the raw price. Kind of like I've mentioned before, I don't want to plant any more canola. I don't think you make very much on it. Or corn. It's surprisingly low, even with a higher price for these other grains. The cost of seeding and the cost and the value that you get out of the harvest just doesn't quite match up to what you get, with wheat and barley. The most profitable probably would be to grow corn and chop it for silage. Although you can see over here, profit per square meter, sugar beet and potato are actually among, or wait a minute, excuse me. Yeah, sugar beet's down here. They're right up. Potato right now is the highest. And I know I did this one other time and showed it in a video, and still doing, because a map author severely throttled the ability to just take silage to the BGA and make a lot of money. And we're trying to respect that. So taking it to the regular BGA is only going to get you 162 per 1,000 liters. There is another place, if I took it to Old Joe's Farms, you could get 283 per 1,000, which would be significant. We should be growing corn if, oh wait, excuse me, did I put that in the wrong one? Nope, I got in the right one. We should be growing corn and chopping it and taking it to Old Joe's if that would work. However, I think the map author has also cleverly throttled Old Joe so that he only takes a little bit at a time. So you could take it over there for 283,000, but then once you've put a certain amount into the trigger, Old Joe says, you know what, I'm full up, I'm not going to take any more. Which actually does inject kind of an element of realism. Now, so let me put that back, or undo it, 162. But potato is still at the top. But what's interesting? I studied some of the game's code to figure out how the prices work. And somebody say, well, that's probably cheating. And maybe it is. I'll give you that. But also, by the same token, farmers that know what they're doing in real life also do market research. There is the hayseed farmer who just wants to grow something, take it to market, collect top dollar, and go home. That doesn't want to put any effort into marketing, but it's really important. And a lot of farmers out there will study the market, some using derivatives or whatever to help hedge their risks and what have you. And we don't have a lot of those tools in here, but I studied how the market works. And what was interesting to me, because you occasionally notice when you play this game, and for a long time I thought, why does the price always decrease when I finally have a big harvest, I have a whole lot to haul to market, and then it just seems like the price of the commodity I just grew falls into the basement? Well, and so for a while I thought they were looking at storage and saying, if the player has a lot of stuff in storage of wheat, well, then the game edge is just going to depress the price of wheat. what I learned is it doesn't quite do that. What it actually goes off of is sales. There's kind of a baseline that it has in the game, but the more you sell of, say, wheat, the lower the prices are going to go. And it's going to take a period of time for them to recover. And something else I've noticed, I'm sure everybody else does, it's kind of a cantilever type effect. I'm sure everybody's noticed, it's like, well, I grew wheat, but how come potatoes are doing so well, with what they would bring in? It's like, oh man, sure wish I had some potatoes. Well, the way the pricing model works, as near as I can tell in the code, if you're taking a ton of your stuff in, it's going to depress your prices, and at the same time, it's going to increase the prices of other commodities. Now, maybe we don't see it as much in this game here. I'm playing on hard mode. Maybe it'd be more easy to see if we were playing on easy mode, because I know that has an impact in there. And by the way, everything I just said, it's all it's all there, but if you have a great demand at a particular location, you can kind of throw some of this out the window. It's going to take the price and it's going to multiply it by several times, to have the great demand effect. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, so I kind of want to do a little experiment. I'll put in some wheat and barley and whatever. That's probably what I'm going to grow again. Maybe some corn somewhere. But I figure the more of that I grow, pretty soon it's going to make these prices even higher. And the trick to me, I guess, is if a person is able to grow a lot of it and then take it all to market, lickety split, and get it to a sell point as soon as possible, you can take advantage of those higher prices. So I kind of want to see that dynamic work, but this is kind of where things are at the moment. Potato harvesting is some specialized equipment, but I may put some of that in. I'm kind of intrigued growing a few spuds, so I may pick a field to do the ad. I'm going to have to rent the equipment to do it because I don't have it yet. But I think I'm going to hold off on the maize for another year. I don't have equipment for the ad either, and so I'm probably going to focus wheat and barley and do a little bit of... Actually, you know what? Sugar beets would be even better. Yes, they would. I got to make sure I'm on the right... No, sorry, potatoes. Oh, my old eyes, I can't tell which line I'm on. So potatoes have the highest in here, so I'm going to grow some of them and focus on this up here. So that's kind of my little crop calculator. Let's go back in here. We have, let me turn that off. Have ourselves another field to get going. And you know what? Let me change. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. I think I want... There's barley. Oh, it didn't open the gate for me. That kind of kills immersion. But I might have to get a different tractor. I'm trying to remember if I was able to pull the hill with this thing. I'm not sure I'm able to. We're going to give it a try. Yeah, already I'm feeling the pull hard. Well, maybe it's just kind of on those edges over there. The sound sure seems loud to me, so I don't know if this is going to record better, and I have half a notion to knock it down. Maybe I'll just do that real quick. Oh, volume is only 10. Well, maybe that'll... Huh. Something in my system is boosting it up. All the mysteries of computing. Get past these trees so I can see what I'm doing. I guess it's pulling the hill. I've kept this tractor through thin and thin, and it's one that I own actually versus rent. So It'd be nice if I didn't have to rent. I'm already renting the cedar itself. Oh dear. I probably shouldn't do this, but sometimes, for whatever reason, and I actually put a script in here to do that, it skips over areas of the map and doesn't get it planted. Maybe because it isn't able to detect the map underneath. I'm not real sure. Actually, this is doing really well, so yeah, I won't need to hire another tractor. I don't know if anybody noticed when I was on the escape menu there, I did slow the time it takes for the plants to grow. I took it off of fast growth for one simple reason. You know, I'm in the middle of planting. Pretty soon I'm going to need to advance the time forward. And I know when I do that on fast growth, it's going to immediately be ready for harvest. So I put it on normal growth, so I don't know what it'll do. Plus, I still need to come through here and put down some fertilizer, and I like to do that when things look green instead of being ready to harvest. So I just figured I would slow things down a little bit and take a little bit more time. And then once I have everything planted, I may speed it up to get to harvest. We'll see. Oh, if only we could do that in real life, huh? As I'm recording this, it's on a very warm Sunday. I just checked the temperature a little bit ago before I started this one, and 98 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And inside, I know I've mentioned this before, or I think I have, our family doesn't have air conditioning in our home, so the only cooling we get is at night when we can throw the windows open and turn fans on. As it cools outdoors, we try to bring some of that cool air into the house, and with varying degrees of success, I might add. If you got a good stiff breeze outside, you're able to move some air, hot air, out of the house. But a lot of times, the breeze seems to pick up when things are still quite hot. And if you're trying to preserve cool air in the house, you don't want to just throw the windows open just because there's a breeze, because it can blow hot air into the house. But unfortunately, a lot of times the wind calms and before the temperature cools. And so a lot of times that means our house stays toasty. So we got a string of hot days coming here. I think it's supposed to go over 100 degrees. And I'm sorry, I should have looked it up. The Celsius, I know some people are used to Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. The only thing I can remember on Celsius versus Fahrenheit is 0 degrees Celsius is water freezing. That's 32 Fahrenheit. And water boiling is 100. 100 degrees Celsius is 212 for Fahrenheit. Those are really the only ones I can remember. Everything else in between is kind of hazy to me. So I'm sitting here kind of in the heat. I have my own fan off in the office here, so it doesn't make extra racket. But wow, my farm machinery seems louder than I'm used to, so I'm really hoping the recording is picking this up okay. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I know when I did this initially, and Atomic 67 told me this. He said to record 2 tracks for the sound, one for voice and one for the in-game sound. And as I sit here listening to this, you know, it seems like the in-game sound is going to be pretty loud. It's going to interfere with what comes in the microphone, but I guess we'll find out. I'll maybe take one more round here and then start going across. And maybe that'll help this tractor pull the hill a little bit. I'll try to get GPS involved and hopefully make things a little easier on ourselves. So I'm not really looking forward to a hot week. Some of my kids right now are down swimming in the pond. I probably should be down there with them to cool off. It's just an old fish pond, but it can help on days like today. Otherwise, tomorrow it's back to work. I'm kind of curious how hot my office will get. My office is kind of on the exterior of the building, kind of on the southwest corner, if you will, bottom floor. And I got windows, to the west and to the south. And on a normal day, I routinely will get pretty warm in the afternoon. So I'm kind of curious to see what some much hotter days do. All I know is whenever the sun is shining in the office, I close the shades so I don't have it beating down on me. Alright, we get to kind of the bottom here. Let me see. Let me try to get control. No, don't want to go that way. That get across. Change just the angle just enough here to. That ought to do. That's going to leave a little. Oh, that's right. It's not. Oh, yes. Let's get more in here. We always got to fix the old work width. There's something about these hills. It's like it operates on a flat, and whenever this GPS, so whenever you get on a slope, it kind of like tricks it out or something to where it sometimes doesn't go the whole width. Well, that time it took it, so we'll just turn on around. Keep this going, and I have my timer from Atomic 67 going in the background. Imagine in a few minutes it'll tell me I'm at the end of half an hour. Tell me when I reach 30 minutes. I wasn't even sure I was going to use that timer all that much. But I don't know, ever since Atomic 67 passed, the memory of it's more precious to me. And because I gotta say, when it goes, it usually jolts me. I'm focused on whatever I'm doing in here or trying to figure out something to say. And so when it jangles back there, a lot of times it can be pretty startling. But when I hear it, I think about him. So that's what I can do to remember a friend. But even worse than the heat at work, if you will, or what's coming up in the weather, with what I have going on at work, I know I've talked a little about some of the things that I do. I'm in what's called public accounting. And one thing, at least in this nation, that a public accountant can do, that I'm licensed to do, that no other a person that calls himself an accountant can do. Anybody can prepare tax returns or some of those kinds of things without really any special licensure. But when it comes to what's called attestation or auditing, and probably half of the two people that just heard that probably fell asleep from boredom, that is what the public accounting license is really for. Doing an attestation, meaning when a company wants outside help on their financial statements to say, are these in accordance with what's called generally accepted accounting principles. That is something that a public accountant renders an opinion or writes a report that no other type of accountant can do. So I say all that because that's an enormous public responsibility, and there's a lot of ethical considerations, and you'll occasionally read in the news or hear on the broadcast, television, whatever, of failures in the process, where an accountant didn't do what they're supposed to do under professional regulations. And so in order to prevent mishaps for any public accountant that does these kinds of services for their customers, we also have to get audited because the powers that be want to make sure that we are following and adhering to professional standards. Because it's really a type of embarrassment to the industry when there are failures, audit failures, if you will, that get out in the public. And my industry in public accounting happens to be self-regulated at the moment, meaning it isn't under government control, although we technically do answer to the government. And so far as we keep our shirt tucked in, we'll probably be able to continue keeping self-regulation. I know that's how I'd like to have it. Anytime you get the government involved, things really get gummed up, and things just cost more, take longer, so forth and so on. But if we don't adhere, if we do a sloppy job, it is possible that in the future the government could come and say, you know what, this self-regulation, it just isn't working. We're going to have to step in and help you guys out. So hopefully it never gets to that. So to kind of prevent that in our industry, our accounting firm is undergoing an audit. And so they look at our policies and procedures and other things that would make a guy wish he could watch paint dry. It isn't the most exciting stuff. And they'll pick some jobs that we did for certain customers, and another, what they call it is a peer review, PEER. So we hire another firm to come in that's independent from us, and they look over what we did, and they will render an opinion as to whether or not we know what we're doing. So this whole last week, I spent preparing for our peer reviewer to come in and look over what we do, and just gave him tons of stuff that he asked for that hopefully provides evidence that we do know what we're doing. So he and his team will look all that over, and hopefully soon will tell us good news that we can continue practicing and do what we're doing, so I can continue making a living, because I'm sure not making one on YouTube, I can guarantee you that. So I would say it's a little stressful. At the accounting firm where I work, this is entirely my responsibility. It's my area of expertise, if you will. There's other folks here have other areas of expertise. This one here is mine, so I do feel on the hook and responsible if something is not appropriate. So, and if they come up with a finding or something, it isn't the end of the world. What we hope is there's no egregious findings, where it is substantively off. Nobody's perfect, as a saying goes, so they're probably going to find something where we could do a little better. And I'm all for continuous improvement, and learning and to get better at what we do. What I just hope is that there's nothing in there to where they say, you know what, you guys aren't even doing your job, you're not even on the right planet, you don't know what you're doing. They're not going to come back and say that. I feel we do know what we're doing, but I just don't want them to have one of those big findings, if you will. So, and I think it's also good for me. I don't know if anybody listening to this has ever dealt with an auditor or a regulator of some kind, to where you have to, maybe one comparative thing would be like a subpoena. If someone's called into court or to testify, they undergo what's called a subpoena, or they get summoned, if you will. Hey, you got to appear here at this time, and here's what you're testifying about. Or if you're not appearing, here's some materials you need to prepare for us. Well, I don't know if that resonates with anybody. Somewhere in a person's life, at some point, you either sit on a jury or you've been summoned, subpoenaed. So maybe you undergo the stress of providing materials, and you hope everything's in order. There's the alarm. So that's kind of what I feel like right now in providing all this, and I'm just hoping everything's in order. And it's good for me, at least is what I try to tell myself. I do this sometimes to clients. We'll go in there for a customer, and it isn't, we just don't, they're customers. I mean, they're paying us to do it. We don't just show up at the door like the government. I mean, there's a good reason they have us come in and do an audit or whatever. But we can ask them for a lot of stuff, and it can take a lot of time to put that together, and being forced to kind of go through that process myself helps me appreciate my clients more. When I send them along the list and say, hey, can you prepare this for me and have it ready by tomorrow? Just kind of what kinds of things, it causes them to do. It takes a lot of time. It can be stressful because you don't necessarily know what the outcome's going to be, and everybody wants to have a good report and doesn't want to have a lot of criticism in there. I mean, let's face it, nobody likes criticism. We'd much rather have somebody that audits us say, hey, you're doing an awesome job. So that's my hope, that he'll say that about our firm, and we can just continue moving on. At least we only have to go through it every 3 years. Some of our clients, they go through this every year, and it's a lot of work for them. Anyway, I'm at the end of our time, and now that we're at a higher altitude up here, you can kind of see the power of getting rid of some of the fog, even though it's still, I guess you see it better over there. It must be the light is shining on that hill. You can just see it clear. There isn't quite the haze. So I would say the haze is cleared off today in Gelvin Valley as we plant our field, and things are looking up. So thank you so much for coming along for a look at this episode. Appreciate you spending a little time here. Hopefully I haven't bored anybody too badly. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.